Today is Tuesday, August 31st, and this is Vos de Sueños After Dark, a lovely show about pony fanfics. And now we return to another mystical evening of So Long and Thanks for All the Ponies, Chapter 5, by Sir Ginger. And this time, he's got an author's note. I do read all the criticisms I see on Equestria Daily, and naturally, I plan on feeding anyone who posts anything other than absolute adoration to the ravenous bug-bladder beast of Trawl. But before I do, I will take comments on board and do my best to address them in further chapters, so keep them coming. I am looking for some pony to proofread my chapters, so please email me if you are ready and willing. Now, from Vos de Sueños, keep in mind that this is mid-August that's being posted, so if you have a way to contact Sir Ginger, I implore you not to immediately spam his email with loving comments of how much you want more and need to be his editor. Magic is an oddity. Before the scientific minds of the galaxy collectively gave up on trying to understand the infinite strangeness of the cosmos, they spent a lot of time attempting to classify it. The best explanation, and the one that was subsequently taught across the universe, was scrawled by a desperate student who had forgotten to study for his exam. Magic is the protrusion into our dimension of an entirely different set of physical laws, or rather, millions of sets from millions of separate, impossible realities. Certain beings evolved the ability to force these laws to bleed into our universe, editing the physical reality around them against the usual scientific laws. It is almost certain that this idea is a load of dingo's kidneys, but it was good enough to be the last idea put forward before the entire physics faculty of Maxamegalon collectively gave up on the subject and went down the street to the pub, where they spent the night smoking, drinking, and bullying any magical arts faculty members they could find until it was time to be thrown out. In its article on magic, and in a moment of insight most likely due to the occasional coincidence inherent in 8,000 billion articles or so, The Hitchhiker's Guide notes that magic is a species-wide thing, and varies in power not according to race, but rather to individual. In the case of ponies, we see this magic manifestation has evolved in three basic ways. Unicorns have the ability to directly tap into it via spells, directing it as they wish, giving them great control at the cost of intrinsic power. Pegasi have the inherent magical ability to fly and walk on clouds. The first is definitely magically attained, because leading physicists established that unless dark matter was somehow involved, wings that small could not support a full-grown pony. Earth ponies do not have set magical traits, and therefore have the greatest variety of magical talents. Some can seemingly teleport at random, or continuously pull a multi-tone train for a whole day and night without stopping to rest. In the end, it all balances out between the three, though arguments naturally occur between ponies who for some strange reason have unflappable faith that their group is best. Alicorns, which are technically classified as a sort of god, are another matter entirely. Let me get this straight, Pinky, because that sounds like the most counterintuitive thing I have ever heard. Twilight began pacing back and forth in front of her friends. You say that somehow our friends were picked up by this infinite improbability drive ship, which could currently be literally anywhere in the entire universe. Uh-huh! So, you plan on getting us aboard too, by making it infinitely improbable that we get picked up, and then waiting for it to inevitably happen. Indeedy! Pinky smiled happily. Twilight's eye twitched, but she carried on. And you say that no pony has ever tried something like that before. Nope! Twilight's eye twitched again, a single hair standing up from her mane. So you intend to hitch us a lift to somewhere, someplace in the universe, it is infinitely improbable it would ever be able to get to. Applejack stared at the two, then turned to Spike. You getting any of this? Spike shook his head. Nuh-uh. And then, you want us to do something dangerous enough to give this ship a very limited time to pick us up. Pinky leaped up, clapping her hooves together with joy. I knew you'd understand! Twilight fought to keep her voice calm. Pinky, there's no way I'm traveling halfway across the galaxy, traveling specifically to make it hard to get to our friends, and then jumping off a cliff! Spike stood up. He had remained conspicuously quiet so far in the proceeding, but there was a gleam in his eye by now. Twilight knew that look. It spoke of lances, dashing steeds, of quest for glory, and the light of adventure. His voice was filled with inspiration, and he seemed, for a moment, to be an older dragon. If Milady is in trouble, we must do whatever we can, whether it be a glorious charge into the face of 1,000 enemies, or a test that will pitch our minds against the infinite thingamagummies of something or other, or even... He trailed off. Whatever. We have to do it. Applejack nodded behind him. Sorry, Sugar Cube, but Pinky knows this crazy universe better than we do. If she says it'll work, I believe her. Besides, what else is there to do? Twilight opened her mouth, then shut it again. Oh, Celestia, she thought. Confound these ponies. I need a drink. Aboard the Heart of Gold, Zaphod was making himself known. He saw it as his sacred and holy duty to inform these poor confused mares about the marvel that he was. Occasionally, he let them get a remark in, but for the most part, he was doing the talking. He was gauging them for how impressed they seemed to be. That rainbow-colored one was plainly still irritated and mistrustful, but the other two didn't look hostile. The white one, she seemed to have appointed herself the leader of the three and was doing most of the conversing. And as for the pastel yellow one, occasionally he tried to get a proper look at her, but she would always retreat behind a wave of pink hair. Okay, baby, he thought. One annoyed by how great he was, another entranced by how great he was, and the third intimidated by how great he was. He interrupted Rarity. Man, I'm great! They stared at him. He didn't even have the good grace to look ashamed. I'm grateful that you lovely fillies got rescued by me. You must have been through a lot. He laid a hoof on Rarity's. Why the zark did you go floating around in deep space? Well, if you must know, Rarity began, withdrawing her hoof in the most polite way she could. Some horrible creatures called Vogons had us thrown out there. Vogons? 10 out of 10 for ugly, 0 out of 10 for basically everything else. He made another movement to lay a hoof on Rarity, but she dodged. He passed the movement off by pushing his sunglasses off his eyes, and then his other sunglasses off his other eyes, too. You ladies must have been through an awful lot. I'm afraid this ship only has one set of sleeping quarters, but... He was interrupted by a very cheery voice as Eddie cut in. Sorry to correct you there, buddy, but I think we have at least 4 other rooms which they can sit comfortably in. The voice cut out as a martini glass hit the nearest speaker. Zaphod grinned maniacally. Sorry, ladies, my horn slipped. Yeah, cut in Rainbow sarcastically. It was weird. It almost seemed like you levitated the glass and violently threw it. I think we can find those rooms on our own, thank you very much, Rarity added. Zaphod sighed. He knew when the game was up for the night. Okay, ladies, sleep well. Everything will seem much better in the morning. He winked. I promise. As the 3 ponies left, he turned to his chair and spoke. Thanks a bundle, Eddie. You just cost me a full bed tonight. Eddie's voice came through a separate speaker. No problemo! Eddie chirped in obviously. Anything else I can do? Get me another drink before I go and look for the largest computer virus file I can find and jam it right down your input drive so hard you'll be coughing up dodgy programs for a week. Right away, El Presidente! Zaphod began to think. He would have to impress these girls somehow. But how? Something bold, something dramatic, something centered around himself, if at all possible. The unicorn, the dragon, and the 2 earth ponies stood in the docking area, watching as ships of all shapes, sizes, colors, and states of repair peeled in and out. And you say these things can travel through space? Applejack was looking at one that seemed to be barely more than a mountain of rust with engines. Pinky looked appraisingly at the ship with the air of an expert. I don't think we want that one, AJ. Keep looking. Well, yeah, I wasn't proposing that particular heap as ideal transport. Oh, so you know about the Deglongs? There was a long pause. What in the hay is a Deglong? I just meant it's about as beaten up as a unicorn in a hick griffin town. She caught Twilight's offended look and blushed. Oh, silly! It's meant to look like that. Pinkie could be maddeningly patronizing when those around her had the wrong end of the stick. Deglongs never spend money on anything. They'd make us pay big bets to carry us anywhere, and I only have a couple of Altarian dollars to my name. She smiled brightly at the hundreds of ships. But don't worry, your Auntie Pinkie Pie has got it all taken care of. It's the length and breadth of the galaxy, rough it, slum it, struggle against mind-boggling odds, win through it, and still know where your towel is. All for less than 30 Altarian dollars a day. That's the hitchhiker's way. She hopped into the air, seeming to levitate as her legs wiggled excitedly. Fun, isn't it? And there we are. As soon as possible, although by the time you hear this, I will have already done it, there should be edited episodes up on YouTube, split into whatever size they need to be. And that's that. So long, and thanks for all the ponies. I will be reading the next chapter as soon as it comes up.